Today I am going to give my talk on Pandit Madan Mohan Malvi's place in Indian history. In political arrangements and engagements of the time, it was difficult to ignore Malviya's presence. He was bold, articulate, and pragmatic, never feeling shy of espousing the cause that lay close to his heart. His public activity through the Madhya Hindu Samaj found his parallel. Madhya Hindu Samaj found its parallel in his involvement in founding an exclusive body for the upliftment of Hindi Uddharani Sabha or Society of Emancipation of Hindi in 1884. Bharatendu Harishchand founded the Nagari Pracharani Sabha in Banaras in 1893. Malviya was active in the Sabha and argued for establishing suitable channels between the advocates and promoters of Hindi and the government official. His commitment to the propagation of Hindi brought him to the mission of seeking parity for the language in the courts in province. He submitted a well-researched and meticulously prepared documents, code characters and primary education in Northwest Province and Awadh to the Lieutenant Governor in 1899. Convinced with the argument in Malviya's memorandum, the government allowed the use of Nagari script in addition to Urdu in court document. Recalling his contribution to the growth of Hindu, K.M. Munshi underlined that the Malvi was the father of the movement for the national language for India, who brought the Hindi Sahitya Sammelan and the great linguistic and literary movement which is associated with Hindi into existence. As a member of UP legislature, Malviji distinguished himself through a display of combined moderation and ability, spirit of independence, and as well as a sense of responsibility. These abilities were on the full display when he made speeches on the Bundelkhand Land Alienation Bill, the Excise Bill, and the annual financial statement. Through his critique of the government's administrative and financial politics, he invited his attention to his miseries in that befell the common people. In his maiden speech on the Bundelkhand Land Alienation Bill, he suggested that the remedy for checking land alienation lay not in enacting that law, but in reducing the land revenue demand and to rationalize the system of collection. Through his budget speeches, he demanded an increase of expenditure on education, public health, and industrialization, and reduction in the provision of police. With his experience of working as a vice chairman of the Allahabad municipality, he also urged the building of the model busties and for the opening of the congested area in the larger cities. As the member of the council, he also gave valuable evidence before the Royal Commission for Decentralization, especially those dealing with the constitution of provincial government and financial decentralization. His note on the matter submitted to the Commission on 13 February 1908 contested the sole authority of the Government of India to revise the financial settlement with provinces at any time without giving the latter any voice in the matter. And equally significant, while the central government used the huge financial resources to liberally and imperial purposes. It shied away from devoting the adequate share of the resource to promote the moral and material progress of the people. The result has been that the condition of the people as the whole contrast very unfavorably with the splendor of the empire. The injustice of existing arrangement is patent for the fact that while for many years of the government of India has been revealing surplus some of the provinces which has contributed largely to those surpluses have been leaving subsistence allowances. The remedy of emphasis lay in converting the unitary form of government into federal system, enabling the provincial government to become semi-independent instead of mere delegates for the supreme government. It was wide ambit to his public and political activists through the Congress party and the UP legislature and encouraged the party to elect him as a president as its Lahore session in December 1909. His unequivocal stand in the issue of confronted the country was taken note of by the Madras Standard on the occasion. On every important issue now, now before the country, he Malvi was expressed himself clearly and ambiguously, so that the public need not be in doubt as to what his view will be on the several questions that will come before the Lahore session on the Congress. He has been strict constitutionalist who understand the practical difficulties which a public man in India has to face. He has been a practical politician in the best sense of the term. Inside the central legislature, in which this served as the member since 1910, he commanded a lot of influence. Here he emerged as a great proponent of self-government, opposed the ordinances, and vehemently criticized the press bill, seditions, assembly bill, and Rolect bill, and public safety bill. Ultimately, he is the great advocate of ensuring individual liberty in all the dimensions. One of the first interventions in the central legislature was on the bill moved by Robert Risley to provide for the better control of Indian press on 4th April 1910, when he warned that there was a real danger that the provisions of the bill would affect the legitimate liberty of the press. Malviya looked at the lack of education as the biggest underlying cause for ignorance, driving people animosities. This was reflected in the detailed argument in support of Gokhale's bill in 1912, which sought to make elementary education compulsory. Malvi wished to secure for all our people what is that present enjoyed by only few of them, and showed the annoyance with the official objection of the ground that there were numerous castes and creed in the country. He wondered how existence of castes and creed proved to be obstacle in the way of extending education among the masses. He was criticized the argument that universalization was the fine but compulsion was not. If a measure was clearly for the benefit of the people, a large them a principle of compulsion must be introduced. Malvi wished to minimize army expenditure and sought to Indianization of armed and civil services. He voted time and again and against the finance bill. He was an avowed critic of policies of foreign tariff which favored expansion of British interest in India, and therefore opposed the imposition of duty on silk clothes and protection provided by British made clothes. Fighting for abolition of intenders' labor, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya also took up cause of intended labor and those of Indian immigrants, both inside the legislatures and also as the president of the Congress. He also supported Gandhi effort in this direction. He conveyed his concern about atrocities of Indians in Transvaal and appreciated the way of immigrant Indians were protesting against the Asiatic Registration Act. He also remarked, we should not restrict ourselves to mere opposition, but should try hard to achieve such heights so that foreigners start showing respect to us. They do to any independent people, and then went on to suggest that the achieving excellence in areas like education and acquiring strength, showing self-respect, inculcating love for nation, achieving internal unity, attaining artistic achievement would earn us respect from foreigners. He made a remarkable intervention on the use of indentured labor in the Imperial Legislative Council. In March 1916, moving a resolution for the abolition of the system, he described it as an unmitigated evil that had worked enough moral havoc during the preceding 8 decades, and it was only with intense pain and humiliation that they could think of blasted life for his victims. On the anguish of soul to which they had been subjected by system, and accepting the motion of Malvi's, Lord Hardinge announced that he had obtained from His Majesty government the promise of the abolition of the system in the course. Gandhi felt that a vague assurance against such a long standing grievance was highly unsatisfactory. In the meantime, the Viceroy has explained that essential abolition meant abolition within such reasonable time as will allow alternative arrangement being introduced. Malvi has convinced that it was the official majority in the council that was the real stumbling block. It is representative of the people had real and effective voice. In the country administration, he believed the abominable system of indentured labor would have been put an end to many years ago. Lord Chelmsford, who succeeded Hardinge, was not allowing even a vague assurance. Therefore, in February 1917, when Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya asked for leave to introduce the bill, he refuted it. Gandhi thought it was time to tour the country to organize the All India agitation. Gandhi highly appreciated Malviya's intervention in getting the system abolished. Speaking on Fiji affairs in Bombay on 13 July 1920, he advised those who wished to study the indenture question go through the speeches of Gokhale and Malviya in the Imperial Council. Moderate in the Congress. Malviya represented the moderate face of the Congress, but unlike the most moderate, he faced little difficulty in the adjusting to the Gandhian phase of the movement while retaining his conviction on the some significant political move. He combined constitutionalism with mass movement, retaining the solidity of the nation cause supreme. He developed a keen understanding of the representative institution, of the governance and knowledge of the British history and progress of democracy in the part of the world. In the initial year of the Congress, when the primary demand weed around seeking better Indian representation in the Viceroy's Council and introduction of elective principle, Malviya preferred to speak on the issue with the nuanced approach, suitably hyphenating and speeches with the real meaning of democracy that has evolved in England. In the maiden speech of Calcutta session 1886, speaking the support of Surendranath Banerjee resolution relating to the reform of Governor General and Provincial Legislative Council, Malviya appealed to the virtues of liberty and right. I will only add, may the cause of the people of India, the cause of liberty and right, engage the attention, heart, and soul of every honest Englishman of India and the England, and may each true Briton who values and rights the privileges, the freedom which have made him and his country what they are at us, like true Britons, to the fruition of our aspirations of equal right, equal privileges, and equal freedom. At the next session of Madras in December 1887, he complained that neither the Indian affairs were being managed properly and nor were Indians being allowed to manage themselves. They will not do their duty to the country themselves, and they will not allow us to do it. Can anything be more cruel and more unjust of the English nation, which professes to love freedom and justice and boasted itself founder, constitutional and the free government? Gentlemen, after this, I like nothing need be said by England about justice and freedom. If this concession is not granted to us. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya was an ardent advocate of protecting the village industry and safeguarding the Indian products. As early in 1898, he proposed the government ought to foster native industries and native art. Where are the weavers? Where are those men who lived in different industries and manufacturers? And where are the manufacturers which were sent to England and other European countries in very large question year after year? As the member of the Indian Industries Commission appointed in 1916, which submitted its report in 1918, Malviya presented a long and well-researched note on each point he disagreed with. He also suggested numerous ways in which India could develop its industries on its own. During the internal conflict of the Congress in 1905 to 1907, he added with the advocate of self-government within the British Dominion. Therefore, through the like most moderates, he supported the campaign for Swadeshi and Swaraj. He disliked the idea of boycott. He was not supporter of violent method adopted by revolutionaries. Presiding over the Lahore session on the Congress, In 1909, he deplored murder of Colonel Willie Jackson and others. Malviya had long been a critic of any political appeasement of Muslim community by the British authorities in India, expressing his displeasure at the separate electorate being conceded through the Marley-Minto reform. He wrote Gokhale on 4th March 1909. Now that the Mohammedans have successfully pressed their claim for separate electorates, their representation will be owed no responsibility to non-Muslim voters. He should protest against their being given the number of seats in the excess to what they would be entitled to by reason of their proportion to total population. He analyzed the result of this reform on the United Province. In addition to the 4 seats already reserved for Muslims, they had owned 2 more seats. These, with the nomination made by the government, had given them 8 seats out of total of 26 non-official seats in the province, where they form only 1/6 of the population. He supposed the Lucknow Pact, though he has opposed the idea of separate electorate as the uppermost objective in his mind, and that time was realization of self-government. Malviya had stayed away from the Home Rule movement on the premise that there was no need for any organization other than the Congress to steer the movement of constitutional change. Yet he led the delegation to the Viceroy in March 1917 to protest against the official effort to stifle this Home Rule movement. In June 1917, he wrote to the editor of Leader, and though he had some sharp differences with Besant in the past, he felt grateful for the splendid manner in which he made sacrifice in the cause of Indian progress and reform, and therefore, if she exposed to suffering in that cause, he stressed thousands of Indians who have not been able to see eye to eye with her in all things will think that their duty to stand by her and to follow her. On 16 June 1917, the governor of Madras ordered Besant internment. Both Gandhi and Malvi, along with the other leaders, vehemently criticized the move. Gandhi visited Allahabad to discuss the matter with Malviji. On 10th July 1917, in public meeting in Bombay, Malvi asked to resolute action and advised that message of Swaraj should be carried to very village, house and cottage. He also tabled the resolution in the Imperial Legislative Council asking for the Besant early release. Though the moderate Malvi Ji was also ready to chart an independent course, in 1918, as the Montfort reform was announced, moderates were quick to support the scheme, and Chintamani, Sapru and Hridaynath Kunjuru, all Allahabad based, tried to convince Malviji to announce his support too, but instead of obliging them, Malvi wrote a 43-page long critique of the report, which was published in the Leader between 4th and 7th August 1918 and was also brought out in the form of pamphlet. He pointed to give different deficiencies which must be made up before the reform could become the adequate to the requirements of the country. He demanded clear-cut statutory provisions and would confer of on India full self government within the 20 years, and that there should be no reverse subject and no grant committees. A few months later, in his presidential speech at the Delhi session of the Congress in 1918, Malvi sought self-government. Malvi's view on Rowlatt Act, Jallianwala Bagh, and indemnity bill. Malviya make an impassioned speech against the Rowlatt bill in the Imperial Legislative Council, February 1919, as he sought removal of the public grievances and avoid any repressive action, calling the Rowlatt legislation as a retrograde and repressive, and also subversive of so many ideas of justice for the protection of the liberty and of individual. He pleaded with the government to reconsider its position and not lead people to feel that the great sacrifice which they made during the war has already begun to be forgotten. Referring to the tremendous opposition which the bill had attracted, he warned the government during his speech in the council on 12th March 1990 not to ignore the resistance led by Gandhi on 6th April 1919 in protest against the attitude of the government in securing the force passing the bill. Malvi resigned his seat on the same day, chairing the mass meeting of citizens at the Allahabad to mark the anti-Rowlatt Satyagraha. Malviya said that good came out of evil, and through the Rowlatt bill, he emphasized the Indians had achieved a wonderful unity. As president of the Congress, Malviya played a crucial role in mobilizing people and leaders after the gruesome Jallianwala tragedy, followed by inhuman martial law regime in the Punjab. The AICC meeting on 8 June 1919 appointed a subcommittee to inquire into the incident in Punjab, take legal initiative, and collect funds for the purpose. A 9-member committee under Malviya, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, with Motilal, Jaikar, Gandhi co-opted later October, and other was set up. Malvi was among the first, along with the Motilal, Nehru, and the Shraddhanand, to reach Amritsar on June in. To ascertain fact, people were terror-stricken. They stayed on for several weeks. The Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar reported that Malvi's inquiry was on a monsterly ex-party nature, complaining that they made no attempt an opinion from citizens of the influence and weight. Malvi also sent Kapil Dev Malvi to Amritsar to help the investigation, from where he would send regular dispatches that helped the reconstructing the brutal incident of atrocity. Back in the council on 3 September 1990, Malvi asked the large number of probing questions, around 60 to be precise, on the Punjab affair through an advance notice. They included most minute detail about the number of people arrested, detained, and convicted, along with their complete details, cases decided by different courts, number of persons killed to wounded on the different dates and occasions, reason for deportation of Satyapal and Kichlu, legal background and nationalist emotions. Combined, he sought every possible detail about the Jallianwala tragedy, starting from the proclamation if any, for the prohibition of the meeting to the number of persons assembled on the 10th September 1990 in the Viceroy announced it in the Legislative Council, the appointment of committee chaired by the Hunter to the inquire into the Punjab disturbance. The final composition and appointment were made on 18 October, but very soon on 18 September followed in with the indemnity bill. Malviya sought to bill's postponement in the 4.5 hours long speech. He falsely contested the government opinion that the Motilal Nehru were a self-constituted commission of the inquiry into the Punjab affair, saying that the government views carried little weight when men coming from the heart of the disturbed area approved by the measures taken by the AICC. His speech made a spirited argument for not moving ahead with bill and wait instead for the report of committee of inquiry. I make this appeal in the name of those who have lost their lives, in the name of those who lost their limbs in this recent disturbance, in the name of those who have suffered indescribable indignities, in the name of those who are undergoing imprisonment at this moment, injuries in His Majesty's jail, in the name of those women who are in the mourning by the loss of their husband and relations or sons, in the name of those, by Lord, I appeal to those, Your Excellency, government, to stay the hand of government and wait for the committee for inquiry and then decide what should be done. Speaking the Nasik a year later, Gandhi credited Malviya and Motilal for saving the lives of thousands of the innocent Hindu and Muslim in Punjab. Thank you very much.